So before I begin, I got sick, so my voice it's definitely better than it was, but if it sounds very raspy, what can you do? But the house or one of the branches of the house had a committee. It was about a 2 hour long meeting, give or take. I watched it on Breitbart, but it was to discuss national threats, and it was all about white supremacists. Now, inside the committee, someone did bring up radical jihad and stuff like that, but that was like a very small portion. I didn't watch the full thing. I had to skip. I was skipping through some of it because it's not because I wasn't interested. It's just they were saying the same points as we've seen before. They were talking about on Charlottesville, that is when the white supremacists finally struck, or at the shooting, that's when the white supremacists finally struck, and this and that, and even some of the shooters that hated Donald Trump, like when you looked at their feeds and they hated Donald Trump, they're being called white supremacists. And they're even going on after Trump, saying, it's his fault that these white supremacists are coming up and his racist policies and all this stuff is why the white supremacists are rising up because they finally feel empowered by the racist Donald Trump. Racist! You see why I had to skip through a lot. Some of the, I'm going to call them defendants, they made some good points. And, some of them were like, this isn't Donald Trump doing any of this. This is policies that people are just tired. We're tired of being forgotten by our government. We're tired of basically being smacked away. And was it David Webb? Yeah, I was listening to the David Webb show on my way to work, and he was listening. He said something that it's like Social Security is a mess. I know this is a bit off topic, but just stick with me and you'll see why I'm saying this. Sorry, I choked on a second. But he was talking about how Social Security is a mess. Like, we messed it up for ourselves, but it should really make people mad that, a lot of these, a lot of these illegal immigrants, they're coming, or migrants, I guess, whatever you want to call them, they're coming in and they're being promised the exact same benefits that citizens are getting, which means, you have this line of citizens that are, we've been paying into this stuff. We've been waiting for this stuff, We're supposed to pay into it so when we get to a certain point, we don't have to keep working for a living. But, you have these immigrants who are being shifted to the front of the line. And a lot of them haven't even paid anything, especially the migrants that are trying to get in. They haven't even paid anything into the American tax system. And they're sitting here and they're being promised all this front-loaded stuff. And one of these committee people, and this was during a committee people, but I want to tell y'all about this. He said, there's legal immigrants, but a lot of family members come in, but they overstay their visas or their work passes, and they just stay there illegally. He talked about, well, if we go to these places and evict these people because, they're here illegally, then we can open up these houses for a lot more of these homeless veterans or homeless Americans, homeless citizens. Of course, the Democrats didn't like that, because, that's racist. How dare you want to get people out of their home? Well, they're not here legally. So when you look at that little bit, and then you look at this white supremacist debate they had, I mean, folks, the Democratic Party, from my point of view now, and also from a lot of other people's point of view, is they're just anti-citizen. Not necessarily white people. I mean, they really seem to hate white Americans, but it seems they're also going after black Americans as well, because you see them front-loading all these immigrants in front of everyone. It's not just affecting white Americans, it's affecting brown Americans, black Americans. This should be pissing them off too, because, in a lot of inner cities, yes, black Americans do suffer, but also in a lot of rural areas, white Americans suffer. There's no balance. There's no balance at all. So when you have this committee of them talking about how white people are the biggest threat, it's a bunch of horseshit. It's just stupid. it's absolutely foolish, because you're even having black people who they just support Trump. They're even being called white supremacists now. So, you don't even have to be a white person. You don't have to be a white person to be a white supremacist now. And I highly doubt a lot of those black Trump supporters are Uncle Ruckuses from the Boondocks. They are just patriotic Americans who see what's happened to the nation, and they just want it fixed. They want a secure border. They won't lower taxes. They want private property. But to this committee, if you want these things, if you are a supporter of Trump, if you believe in national security, if you believe in America in general, you are now a white supremacist. And they just didn't have it limited to America. They also were talking about white supremacists in Europe, talking about how these the Brexiteers, they're just white supremacists. They're just trying to stop the diversity and inclusion of Europe. And you see why I was skipping through that, I think it was an hour and 40-minute long meeting? It's because they were talking about stupid stuff, and it's just, I don't even know what to really say. I mean, God forbid that Britain is for the Brits, God forbid that America is for the Americans. France is for the French. I mean, they were even talking about the yellow vest, because yellow vest is the working class in Britain, or I'm sorry, in France, that basically they got tired of being forgotten, left behind, and left out of everything, and they rose up. And for people who know history, France is prone for violent uprisings, very bloody uprisings too. They were talking about that, saying this is just the white supremacists. White supremacy is everywhere. You take one person and you stick him on a group, and yes, it looks like white supremacists is everywhere. You take one group and you put them in with a large group. Yes, white supremacists seem everywhere. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And they're going to keep lowering the bar of what they consider white supremacists. Because first, remember, when Donald Trump first got elected, it was just Trump supporters. Trump supporters are just white supremacists. Then it became conservatives and Trump supporters are white supremacists. Then it became right wing. Right wing is, they're Nazis. They're full of Nazis. And then it became people who aren't even right wing. People who just want to secure the border. Hey, they like the tax cuts. Hey, they don't like the idea of hundreds, if not millions, of people just flowing through an open border and flooding the towns. They don't like that idea. And now they are white supremacists. Even people who formerly did not vote for Trump, but are also like going, hang on, Democrats, I don't like Trump either, but what y'all are speaking, y'all are going crazy. They are white supremacists now. We have seen the lowering of the bar already, and we're having committees saying to where we need to discuss the severity and the true threat of white supremacy in America. No, y'all created the white supremacist movement. Y'all created this so y'all can try to stir up like every other community in America that's not white, essentially. Y'all are trying to stir them up so they fear for their lives, like, oh God, all these white supremacists are everywhere. But, as I've said before in a previous video, the reality is if white supremacy was truly, like, the dominant thing in America, there would be no towns and there would be no cities that are majority black, black, brown, Asian. I mean, you get where I'm going with. There would be no towns like that. But guess what? America is not a white supremacist nation. Now, is there individuals out there? Yes. But there's also black supremacists. There's also brown supremacists, Hispanic supremacists. I mean, it's on both sides. So, the reality of this committee, if the Democrats, if they win next year, like, let's just say they win all the way, pretty much they're going to label anyone as a domestic terrorist who wants just our nation, who wants a secure border, who loves their guns. people who believe in free speech and such, because the damn Democrats have gone so far left that they're basically socialists and communists now. And if they get power, as I've said before, I'm truly terrified what they're going to try to pass. I'm truly terrified what they're going to try to do. They're going to go after the guns. They've made that incredibly clear. And, they're back on the impeachment of Trump. And what are they going to do? Impeach Mike Pence next? And then, well, Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, so she would be next in line, so maybe that's what they want. But you get where I'm going, folks. The meeting was just absolute BS. It's just they think anyone who loves America, anyone who wants their nation and actually wants a rule of law, they're white supremacists. Doesn't matter your color now, you're a white supremacist. And Sargon Akkad said something. The British YouTuber. He was talking about Brexit, and he made a very valid point in one of his videos. He was talking about someone who apparently the most scary racism she felt was there was a group of British who, what the left would call white supremacists, but they were just talking around saying, we got problems with these immigrants coming in because they're basically coming in and they're colonizing. Because some of the biggest issues with the migrant crisis in Europe is the migrants aren't assimilating with the country that they're in. The call of home is real, as I said in other videos, but the thing is it is a problem when you have people coming in and they're setting up their own micro communities within a larger community, within a larger nation. And Carl Benjamin said, that's why people don't like it. Their home is being colonized, as he said. And, in the video he was talking about, the woman said that, she felt offended and racist because this group of British people actually accepted her because, like, oh, hey, our customs, you talk like us, you sound like us, we have no problem with you. And it's just like, that's all we want. We want a secure border, yeah, but we don't. Well, personally, I think we need to downgrade on the immigration, but we don't need to completely stop people from coming in, but we got to let these people know that if you come in, and it's not America, it's Europe too, but, we have our own culture, our own set of morals, our own set of standards. And, we shouldn't have to bend the knee to other nations' cultures. They should come in here and they actually want to be an American, be a Brit, be a French, a German, etc. They should come and actually want to be these things. But instead, like in Europe, we're seeing people come in and they don't want to assimilate. They just want to form their own communities within, the larger nation. And which, for the Muslims, I don't blame them. A lot of their natural homes are just, they're terrible. They're awful. And, you go living in a hot-ass desert, and then you go up to Britain where it's like 60, and there's trees and hills and grinds. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to go back either. So, what do? Well, in Carl Benjamin's words, they colonize. Because when you look at London, from what I understand, it doesn't really look like a British town anymore. The British identity in London, from their words, is being lost. And you have groups of people who want that back, and the left is calling them white supremacists. That is an example. People who just want their nation back are being called white supremacists. If a group of British went to, we'll just say, Egypt and started forming their own British community within Egypt, honestly, the Egyptian would just attack them. Alright, because I'm not even joking. But, God forbid that the British want their own nation. Anyway, folks, once again, you see why I didn't watch this full debate, because it was just stupid BS. And this is some examples of what they call white supremacists. The left's dream or the left's desire for a one world with no borders it's like in a religion. Just like how climate change for them is like, they gotta save the world from climate change. This is their moment of glory. They gotta save the world. Even though that the policies that they're saying they're going to admit is just, it's gonna hurt nations more than anything. But maybe that's the goal. Maybe it's to drag all the nations down at the same level so we're all truly equal. But I don't know. I am just so amazed and so shocked by any of this. But this is just a quick summary of how that committee went. If you believe in America, or if you're a nationalist, if you believe in the rule of law, or the Second Amendment, or if you want a secured border, or a decrease in immigration, instead of having just thousands upon thousands flushing the border, I got bad news for you. You're white supremacists. According to the Democrats, that is. Alright, guys, thank you so much for watching. So once again, sorry about my voice. We all get there, but I felt like this was something that just, it needed to be talked about. Alright, guys, later.